I believe the government that governs best is the government that governs least, and by these standards, we have set up a fabulous government in Iraq. I stand by this man. I stand by this man because he stands for things. Not only for things, he stands on things. Things like aircraft carriers and rubble and recently flooded city squares. And that sends a strong message that no matter what happens to America, she will always rebound with the most powerfully staged photo ops in the world.
Dick Cheney, oh my God, he's a scary man. It scares me to death. I tell my kids, I say, look, if two cars pull up and one has a stranger and the other car has Dick Cheney, you get in the car with the stranger.
But even though the mainstream press gives me a hard time, I hear that I'm still pretty big on Twitter, Facebook, or as Sarah Palin calls it, the socialized media. It's been quite a year since I've spoken here last. Lots of ups, lots of downs, except for my approval ratings, which have just gone down. But that's politics. It doesn't bother me. Besides, I happen to know that my approval ratings are still very high in the country of my birth.
All right, so in the media, we call it the nerd prom, as if the royal wedding wasn't enough pomp and circumstance for the week. Tomorrow night is the annual White House Correspondents' Dinner in Washington. And in the past few years, President Obama has shown us that he can hit a punchline, do so very well, sometimes even better than the comedians that are headlining the gala. And this year, Saturday Night Live head writer and the anchor for SNL's Weekend Update, Seth Meyers, will have the task of following the president. And he's already been getting some pointers from NBC Nightly News anchor Brian Williams.
I was a little nervous to begin with, and then the minute I accepted Brian Williams, our friend Brian Williams.
Bri-Y.
Yeah, Bri-Y. He sent me an email being like, toughest room in the business. No man comes out unscathed. Even the knees of brave Achilles would go to jelly were he stand behind that podium. Let me know if I can help.
Is that right? Thanks a lot.
Like, here's how you can help. Lose my email.
Exactly.
All right, so Myers and the president will be in front of a packed crowd of around 2,600 tomorrow night. A veritable who's who from the world of journalism, politics, and, of course, Hollywood. Joining me now, MSNBC political analyst and author of The Promise, President Obama Year One, Jonathan Alter. So, Jonathan, Seth Meyers has been talking a lot this week, saying that it took him a while to agree to do this gig, and one reason, the guy that goes before him.
Right. Now, look.
I'm worried because, you know, Obama speaks first, and he kills.
He's really good. I was at this last year. He destroys.
So then I have to follow Obama. So even if I do just as good, it's like, yeah, but he's also the president.
All right, so there we have it, Jonathan. Seth setting himself up with self-deprecation, of course. I mean, he's very funny, but the president really not an easy act to follow.
He's not, because the president has good comic timing. He's shown that the last couple of years. And he also gets that if you're self-effacing, he was making a joke there earlier about the birther thing, that you're going to get more laughs. And he is the president, and an awful lot of the guests are people from his administration, which is the reason that Stephen Colbert, even though he was hilarious, didn't do well in the room in 2006 because there were so many Bush administration people in the room.
Right.
So it's a hometown crowd almost for the president, even if the journalists, the conservatives, I think, would say they're part of the hometown crowd too. But even if they're, less sympathetic, more willing to see some shots at the president, a lot of the administration officials there, don't have much of a sense of humor when it comes to the boss.
I want to talk more about the Colbert hosting gig, because you've been to many of these dinners over the years, and your wife works with Stephen Colbert.
Right, full disclosure.
Who really went after Bush in 2006. So, in your estimation, how far is too far for these comedians to go? Because the flip side is they're accused of holding back in certain instances.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you're worried about going too far, as my friend Michael Kinsley says, you haven't gone far enough. I mean, to me, the good ones were Wanda Sykes, Stephen Colbert, the comedians who offended a lot of people. That's what humor's supposed to do. And the not-so-good ones were Rich Little, who followed Colbert and really just bombed, and Jay Leno last year, who just didn't bring his A game.
Yeah, it's almost like going to a roast.
Risks. What?
It's almost like going to a roast.
Yeah.
You know, if you're
Yeah.
feeling a little uncomfortable, then it's really good.
Yeah, yeah. And if you're, worried too much about the reaction of the room, it's important to remember a lot of people are watching on C-SPAN. So if some folks in the audience are offended, for my money, that's okay, and I get kind of disappointed when the comedian's not mean enough.
All right, so I'm going to go over this because I think everybody at home is going to find this pretty interesting. The tables. The New Yorkers bringing John Hamm, Zach Galifianakis, and writer-directors the Coen brothers. People Magazine, their table, Bristol Palin, Mindy Kaling from NBC's The Office, Steven Tyler, and Chris Colfer from Glee. Then Politico, get this, they've got this interesting mix. Look at these faces. They've got Texas Governor Rick Perry, Congressman Anthony Weiner, Joan Rivers, and former RNC Chairman Michael Steele. The New York Times, though, for the fourth year running, is boycotting these events continually now. So how do these weird seating assignments and arrangements, Jonathan, come together? I can't imagine Joan Rivers sitting next to Michael Steele.
You know, it's pretty funny. A lot of the Hollywood folks just started coming in the last 10, 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't used to be a big Hollywood event. It used to be that reporters brought their sources, which I find a little bit unseemly. I don't do that myself, to parade your sources out there. Now often they do bring celebrities. The matchups can be very amusing. One year at the Newsweek table, back when the Washington Redskins were the Super Bowl champs, and their great running back John Riggins was sitting next to Sandra Day O'Connor, and Riggins was really drunk, and he started to slide beneath the table, fall off his chair, and he noticed that Justice O'Connor, who was then on the Supreme Court, was looking at him askance, and he said, "Loosen up, Sandy baby." So those are the kinds of events at the table, stories at these tables that we like to savor.
He sounds like someone I need to sit next to take attention off of me. All right, so the New York Times boycott does point some criticism that we hear more every year. That Washington Post columnist Dana Milbank sums it up writing. And I know you said you don't like to parade your sources around, but when it comes to Hollywood, this is what Dana said. CeeLo Green sings for us. Seth Meyers tells the joke. Lindsay Lohan's ex, Samantha Ronson, is our DJ. All the cool kids want to party with us. The Correspondents Association dinner was a minor annoyance for years when it was a nerd prom for journalists and a few minor celebrities, but the event has spun out of control, now awash with lobbyists and corporate money. It is another display of Washington excesses. Where do you come down on that one?
Totally true. But, sometimes nothing succeeds like excess. And I think you just have to kind of lean back and enjoy it, as ridiculous as it is in its totality. And, the old line, actually good line from Jay Leno, that politics is show business for ugly people. And it is the one time of the year when the nerdy reporter type gets to be cool for a nanosecond with some Hollywood celebrity.
Well, it should be a fun evening, that's for sure. Jonathan Alter, MSNBC political analyst, thanks for joining me tonight. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Thomas.